This is not the video that I had planned to film today, but this is the video that I am filming today. So this is going to be a little bit of a mishmash of a few different things. Number one, I'm going to do a roundup of my thoughts of my newest eyeshadow palettes, and I'm going to do sort of like a swatch party type thing at the end, where I'm just going to go through and show swatches in different lighting. I will be talking about each of these palettes again when I do my Nomad ranking. I'll bring up these three, and depending on how the next few months goes, I might do another in-depth review of the Glaminatrix palette, or if I don't, that will come up again in a ranking video later on in the year. What ended up happening was around the time when I received all four of these palettes, things just got crazy and I didn't have time. My favorite way to review a palette is to have anywhere between 5 and 12 looks with the palette, so I can really go into detail about how I feel about the formula and each look that I've done so far with the palette. However, summer, I have no time to myself at all. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that for different reasons. This year has been particularly crazy, and then I found out that we're actually about to take a trip. We almost never do vacation. We're like vacation every 5 years or so type of people. So the fact that my husband was able to take this time right now, I'm absolutely thrilled. Any little distraction, anything to look forward to, I am beyond grateful for. So we're about to do that, but we have 2 small dogs and we do like to always travel with them, especially when we're traveling to visit family. So it's a lot of driving. We're going to be gone for a really long time. So I have like so many things that I need to try to wrap up before we leave. It's just made sitting down and filming or even putting makeup on, it's been hard right now. So I know, even though I'm not necessarily doing each of these palettes justice, especially this one, because this deserves its own video, this might even be my favorite palette of this year. But anyway, my goal for today is to talk about these palettes and then also quickly touch on my experience trying a bunch of things from Rituel De Fille. I decided to go ahead and get these sample packs. So I got 2, so I got 10 samples total, which is actually a good deal because the sample packs, you can pick any 5 things in their inventory, and the upfront charge is $15, but then you get a $10 coupon towards any full-size item. So I got 2 of these for $30, but then I got a $20 voucher for any 2 items in the store, and that's going to be easy. It's definitely going to be easy for me to want 2 full-size items. Plus, it was a lot of fun. I got to essentially try 10 different products from them. And now I just received this, so I'm not ready to review this either, but I did use 2 of the products on my face today, so I figured I would talk about it. The other thing that I'm working on, and if you have been with me, you know I've been working on this for quite some time, is I want to eventually be able to do a get ready with me video. I think that's one of my favorite style of videos to watch, and I know a lot of people feel that way. I have failed every time I've tried to do my makeup on camera. I can't tell you how many videos I've scrapped because I watch them back and they're just painful. So I don't feel like I'm necessarily at that point yet. And part of that has to do with my skill level. I'm not a makeup artist. I've only been seriously playing with makeup even for the last like 4 years. So I don't know what I'm doing. So I'm certainly not going to make any tutorials. But even just to be able to see clearly, figure out where I'm looking, and hold a conversation has been so much harder than I thought. So I have several things that I need to work on. I need to work on the angles and all of that. I need to work on just being comfortable seeing my face without makeup that close up without having a panic attack. And then I need to work on putting my makeup on in a way that looks even remotely natural. So it's going to be a minute. But in the meantime, I decided, since I was going to be putting makeup on to film today, I would at the very least use my tripod to do a close-up of just my eyes. That way I wouldn't have to look at my entire face. I would just focus on my eye look and my cheek look, put music on in the background, fast forward through it, and start that way. Hopefully one day I will be able to actually film a get ready with me. In the meantime, you're going to get a little montage of me putting my eye look together, which is using the Glaminatrix Timeless Tones palette and also using 2 cheek products from Rituel De Fille. So I guess I'll just start there. I kept it super simple. I went all neutrals, and at the end I'll pop in the other looks that I've done so far with this palette. And then from Rituel De Fille, I am trying contour in the shade Intuition, which is very gray based, so I was interested to see how that would work on my skin tone. I am somewhat cool leaning, but I'm not that pale, so I wasn't sure if that would work for me. So far using it a couple times, I think it does work for me. Is it my perfect contour shade? I'm not sure. I always felt like the Westman Atelier, at least the stick form of Biscuit, was my perfect contour shade, but I just felt like switching it up. So I'm trying that. And then I'm also trying the highlighter in Persephone along with their highlight intensifier, which is essentially glitter. It actually reminded me a little bit of the Patrick Ta duos that he's finally reformulating because they were such a colossal disaster. In theory, it reminds me of that, but in practice, it is much prettier, and I actually kind of like it. I'm considering picking that up, but I'll make that decision in a couple weeks when I've had more time with these things. So without rambling anymore, now I'm going to cut to me doing my makeup today. All right, so as you can see, that's a work in progress. Anyway, quick thoughts about the Glaminatrix. I don't have a ton yet because I just haven't used this palette enough. However, I know the Glaminatrix formula really well, and the second I saw this, before I even really had it in my hands, I knew that this was potentially my favorite palette of this year because this color story is phenomenal and they're my favorite formula, at least when it comes to the shimmers. My favorite matte formula might be Natasha Denona. I'm not 100% sure, but that might be my actual first choice. Regardless, I don't care as much because I feel like my mattes are dupable for the most part. Where I really look for innovation is in shimmer, and Glaminatrix gets me there. I just feel like they stand head and shoulders above all of my other shimmers, even Pat McGrath. And while I still feel differently about some of like my Pat McGrath topper shades that really stand out and I can't replace those, when it comes to a more standard opaque shimmer, it's Glaminatrix hands down because I have yet to see anything out sparkle them. Today, for example, I have Dignified all over my lid, and it's just so incredibly impactful. I think they are worth every penny. They're my favorite eyeshadow brand, hands down. The thing I didn't love about their last neutral palette release, Barely Basic I think it was, is that it was a little warm leaning and grungy, and that's not really my vibe. I can like that sometimes, but a cooler leaning color story, it doesn't get much more up my alley than this. So hands down recommend if you have any of the similar tastes as I do. The only thing I've heard some people complain about their shimmer formula is that if you have a lot of lid texture, sometimes it doesn't sit the best on that. I feel like if I wear a primer or if I use a thinner layer of it, I don't really notice that as being an issue, but that's probably the only negative thing I've heard anybody even say about Glaminatrix. So if you're on the fence, I would recommend trying their singles. Try a few singles, see how you like the formula. You don't have to commit to a full palette. And then if you do fall in love with it and you do like cool tone neutrals, I don't think you're gonna hate this. Like so many other palettes, I'll sit here and I'll talk about the pros and cons. With this one, I'm just like, it's great, no notes, it's perfect. I don't even know what to say. So anyway, that's how I feel about that. Now I'll quickly touch on the Nomad palettes. So the thing I always say about Nomad is I recommend them if you don't have to pay extra for importing them or shipping them. So basically, if you live outside of the US, I don't think you need to go out of your way for Nomad palettes. I personally like them a lot more than ColourPop, for example. I think they are more worth it than ColourPop by a long shot, but I don't think the quality is such that you can't find something comparable from another brand. Any number of indie brands have quality that is just as good. So unless they have a color story that you feel like you cannot live without, I don't think you need to ever really go out of your way for Nomad. What I think makes sense is, like, the reason I keep buying them is because I like the price point. Because I picked these up at launch, I was able to get them for about $30 a piece. And for that price, with the updated formula, I have no regrets. Now that that is over, the promotional price is over and they're $44 a piece, I feel differently. I would not repurchase them at the $44 price point. One thing that I am happy to say about Nomad though is the quality is no longer hit or miss. So I think you're safe no matter what. If any of these color stories really speak to you and you just wanted to pick up one, I don't really have any notes to give you about the formula. I think the formula is great across all palettes. So after that, it just comes down to preference. So like I could sit here and rank these for me, but some of that value comes down to what else I have in my personal collection, and that could be different from somebody else, or my exact coloring and what I happen to think flatters me the most. So all of that to say, I guess ironically, similarly to the Glaminatrix, because I do think you should go out of your way for this. If you like the color story, I can also say I don't think you should go out of your way for these, but it is not a bad purchase if you like the color story and if it's domestic shipping. Any more than $44, I would say, then it starts to get dicey as to how worth it is. But if you did want to pick up one, I would say just look at the color stories and whatever one speaks to you the most. It is a solid and reliable formula, and I've had fun with all three of these palettes personally, even though they're never going to be at the top of my ranking when I go through all of my eyeshadow palettes. Nomad is never at the bottom, and I can say with confidence that none of these are going to be at the bottom of my all-time ranking. And I would say even within my Nomad collection, these are definitely in the middle. They're not my absolute favorite, but they're certainly not at the bottom of the list, and I'm happy to have them. After I show the swatches, I'll show the looks that I've done with each of these palettes. Again, I wish I had more looks per palette to show you, but it's a start. So if you know me, I like to be more helpful than this. I like to not come on here and say, it's okay, but sometimes things are just mid. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. I would say out of these three palettes, the palette that I thought that I was going to like the most is the Provence palette, because this is a unique color story for me, and I was really excited about the pink and peach duochromes and the reformulation because they are definitely more impactful than some of their older palettes. But I felt like in practice, these tones ended up not being my favorite on my face. Now, that's going to be different for everybody, but just for me so far, and like I said, I have to play with this more, but I didn't love those tones on me. So I would probably rank this one last out of the three, and then probably number 2 is Berlin, only because I can dupe this pretty easily. I do find some of these shimmers unique, like the purple, for example, is really stunning, and I don't have anything quite like that, like a grungy purple with a ton of silver reflect. I really, really love that, and I think I'm going to have a lot of fun with this in the fall. But number 1 is probably going to go to the America's Parks palette, which is ironic because this was the first one I used when these came in the mail, and when I first put it on my face, I couldn't decide which direction to go in, so I just kept using shimmers, and I ended up with a muddy mess. I hated my look, and I was really upset. I felt like this palette didn't really work. The tones didn't really work with one another, and you can make a mess really easily, which is true of a lot of Nomad palettes, but I think a lot of that came down to indecisiveness because a few days later when I went with the green and yellow look, I thought that look was absolutely stunning. This yellow in particular is really very pretty. It has a slight duochrome pink flip to it, and it's just stunning. So number 1, America's Parks, number 2, Berlin, number 3, Provence. Not how I would have expected to rank those. So yeah, unfortunately, that's going to be it for me today. I do have to keep this short and sweet because I wanted to film one more video. So I'm going to do a packing video where I talk about all my favorite makeup. Now, obviously we're driving, so I'm going to do my absolute favorite makeup, everything I'm loving right now and taking with me because I can, and then I'm going to do a short rundown on what I would take if I was restricted to plane travel. So I'm going to try to edit that when I'm on my trip and get that up sometime next week. And I don't even know if we're going to be gone for 2 or 3 weeks, but it could realistically be a month before I'm back on YouTube, which I feel sad about, but at the same time, I felt like I really needed a break. I've been so depressed and it's been hard to focus on makeup. It's been hard to be lighthearted and chatty. So part of me is like, I needed to take a break anyway, just to kind of get back on track. So these 2 videos are going to be a little bit on the shorter side, but then when I get back, I have a lot of things planned. So I want to do an updated skincare routine. I want to rank my Nomad palettes. I want to go over what I've tried from Rituel De Fille in more depth. Finally talk about my CO2 laser debacle and so many other things. There's a lot that I still want to cover on here. And hopefully after this little hiatus, I'll be able to increase my quality and deliver more interesting content for all of you. So like always, because it is still June, I'm going to link a charity below along with a few other resources. If any of those things speak to you and you can't contribute financially, you can always just share them. There are so many different ways to help right now, and all of it matters. So I hope you're taking care of yourself. I hope you're having a beautiful day or night wherever you are. I love you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.